A few months ago, I was reading a supply chain report and came across a line in the appendix that stopped me in my tracks. It stated that water costs now account for almost 12% of the total expenses of steel production in certain regions of northern China. 12%. Not iron ore, not energy, water. The thing we barely think about when we picture a steel mill. But the more I researched it, the clearer it became. Steel is shaped not only by furnaces and ore, it is also shaped by access to water. In many parts of the world, water is the biggest limiting factor in how much steel can be produced and how much it costs to make. Most people think of steel as a product of iron and heat. You mine iron ore, smelt it in a blast furnace, shape it into beams or coils, then sell it. Water does not enter the picture. But that is not how it works. Every stage of steel production consumes vast quantities of water. Mining the ore requires water to separate the rock from the mineral. Water is also needed to cool the furnaces and prevent catastrophic overheating. Steel is shaped using water to control the temperature during rolling and forming. Transporting the ore and finished products often relies on rivers and canals too. Water is not an input, it is the foundation. When water becomes scarce or expensive, so does steel. I want to explain how this works because it reveals something fundamental about industrial economics. We tend to focus on the obvious costs: raw materials, labor, energy. However, it is often the hidden costs, the ones embedded in systems we take for granted, that determine prices more than anything else. Water is one of those hidden costs, and it's becoming more visible every year. Let me start with the basics of how steel is produced. First, you need iron ore. Most of this comes from mines in Australia, Brazil, and parts of Africa. This ore is not pure iron. It contains rock and dirt. To extract the iron, miners use a process called beneficiation. They crush the ore and mix it with water, using the water to wash away the lighter materials. The iron sinks, the waste floats. It's a simple concept. However, it uses a lot of water. Processing 1 ton of iron ore at a mine requires anywhere from 200 to 500 liters of water. Multiply that by the millions of tons mined annually, and the magnitude of the water usage becomes apparent. Once processed, the ore is shipped to a steel mill. There, it is heated in a blast furnace to extract pure iron. This process is extremely water-intensive. Blast furnaces operate at temperatures exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius. At these temperatures, steel is liquid. Without constant cooling, the equipment would melt, so mills use water, lots of it. The water circulates through pipes running alongside the furnace. It absorbs heat, is cycled out, cooled down, and sent back in. A typical integrated steel mill can use up to 20,000 cubic meters of water per day. That is enough to fill 8 Olympic-sized swimming pools every single day. And that's just cooling. After the iron is extracted, it is refined into steel by adding carbon and other elements. This process takes place in either a basic oxygen furnace or an electric arc furnace. Both processes generate enormous heat. Both require water cooling. Then the steel is shaped. Hot steel is passed through rollers to create sheets, beams, or coils. The rollers themselves must stay cool. More water is needed for this. The steel must be quenched to harden it. More water is needed for that. Depending on the technology and the plant, the production process of a ton of steel will consume between 10 and 50 cubic meters of water by the time it is ready for sale. This equates to between 10,000 and 50,000 liters per ton. Now here's where it gets interesting. Water is not distributed evenly. Some regions have an abundance of water. They have rivers, lakes, and reliable rainfall. Others do not. Steel mills are not mobile. Once a billion-dollar facility is built, it stays where it is. So if you build in a region that later faces water shortages, you have a problem. Your costs will increase. Your production slows. You cannot just move. China learned this the hard way. For decades, China built steel production capacity at a breakneck pace. By the early 2000s, China was producing more steel than the rest of the world combined. Much of this capacity was concentrated in northern provinces such as Hebei and Shanxi. These regions had coal, making them ideal for energy-intensive steel production. However, they did not have much water. Northern China is dry, rivers are seasonal, groundwater is overused. The steel mills were consuming water faster than it could be replenished. By 2015, local governments had begun to impose fees for water usage. Mills that had previously paid almost nothing for water suddenly faced bills in the millions. Some mills installed closed-loop cooling systems to recycle water. However, these systems are expensive and not perfectly efficient. Others reduced production. A few shut down entirely. Those that stayed open passed the costs on to buyers. Steel prices in northern China increased even though global iron ore prices remained stable. Water was the difference maker. India is now facing a similar issue. For years, India has been trying to boost domestic steel production. The country has iron ore, it has coal, it has cheap labor. However, much of India also suffers from severe water scarcity. Rivers in key industrial regions are drying up. Groundwater is being depleted. Steel production is one of the biggest users of industrial water. Some Indian mills have started buying water from farmers, creating its own set of problems. Farmers need that water for their crops. While selling it to a mill might bring in cash, it also means less food production. This trade-off is not sustainable. As a result, the cost of Indian steel is higher than it should be based on raw materials and labor alone. Water adds a premium. Germany offers a different perspective. Its steel mills are among the most water efficient in the world. They use advanced closed-loop systems that recycle up to 95% of the water used in production. Freshwater intake is minimal. This is not because Germany is naturally water-rich. Rather, it is because European environmental regulations forced mills to innovate. These regulations added upfront costs. Mills had to invest in expensive equipment. However, over time, the efficiency gains have paid off. Now, German mills spend less on water than mills in regions with looser regulations and more abundant supplies. Efficiency beats abundance when the price is right. The United States has a mixed picture. Some regions have plenty of water. The Great Lakes supply mills in the Midwest. The Mississippi River serves plants in the South. However, other regions are water-stressed. The Southwest is dry. As climate patterns shift, even traditionally wet regions are experiencing more droughts. I spoke with a plant manager in Pennsylvania a while back who told me that their cooling water costs had doubled in the last 5 years. It wasn't due to regulation. It's because the river they draw from has a lower flow during the summer months. Less water means they have to pay more for what is left. This cost is reflected in the price of every beam they sell. Water also determines where new steel production facilities are built. When planning a billion-dollar steel mill, one of the first questions is about water availability. Do you have a reliable source? Can you access it cheaply? Will it still be there in 20 years? If the answer to any of these questions is no, then you should build somewhere else. This is why so much steel capacity is located along coastlines and major rivers. Proximity to water is essential. It's essential. Transportation adds another layer. Iron ore and coal are heavy. Transporting them by truck is expensive. Rail is better, but still costly. The cheapest way to transport bulk materials is by water. Barges on rivers. Ships travel on oceans. For this reason, a significant portion of global steel production happens near ports or navigable waterways. While the steel itself may be produced inland, the raw materials arrive by water, and the finished product often leaves by water. When droughts lower river levels, barges can carry less cargo. Transport costs rise. Those costs are passed along. Water shapes logistics as much as production. Energy is tied to water too. Most steel mills rely on coal or natural gas for heat. However, generating that energy often requires water. Coal plants use steam turbines. Natural gas plants use cooling systems. Both types of plants need water. When water is scarce, energy becomes more expensive. Since energy is one of the largest costs in steel production, Anything that raises energy prices also raises steel prices. Water constraints create a cascading effect. Less water means higher energy costs. Higher energy costs mean higher steel costs. These connections are indirect yet powerful. This is increasingly recognized by environmental regulations. Europe and North America have begun treating water as a limited resource and pricing it accordingly. Mills that draw water from rivers now pay fees based on volume. Those that discharge wastewater pay treatment costs. These fees are designed to reflect the true environmental cost of water use, and these costs are rising. I have seen projections suggesting that water-related costs for steel mills in regulated markets could triple over the next decade. That is a significant change. It will change the economics of where and how steel is produced. Climate change is making all of this worse. Droughts are longer and more frequent. Rainfall patterns are shifting. Rivers that used to flow year-round are now seasonal. Glaciers that once fed rivers are now melting faster than they can replenish. As a result, steel production, an industry that depends on reliable and consistent water access, is being hit directly. Mills in regions that never worried about water are now facing shortages. This is not a future problem. It is happening right now. The Yangtze River Basin in China is a clear example. One of the largest rivers in the world, the Yangtze supplies water to dozens of steel mills. But over the past decade, dry season flow rates have fallen by nearly 15%. Mills that once drew water freely are now competing with agriculture, cities, and other industries. Governments are rationing access, production is being squeezed, and when output slows in a region that produces this much steel, global prices feel the impact. This also explains why steel costs more in some countries despite similar technology and access to raw materials. The ore is the same, the furnaces are the same, labor costs are similar. The difference is water. In water-rich regions with low extraction costs, steel can be produced cheaply. In water-scarce regions, it cannot. That cost gap shows up in the final price. This is why regions like the Middle East, despite having capital and energy, often import steel instead of producing it. Desalination is possible, but expensive. It is cheaper to import steel than to make it locally. Global trade patterns reflect this reality. As steel demand keeps rising and water availability keeps shrinking, water, not iron, energy, or labor, is becoming the limiting factor. When I look at a steel beam now, I don't just see iron and carbon, I see water. And as water becomes scarcer, steel becomes more expensive. Water is deciding the price of steel.